can you go ahead and tell everybody your name and then spell your last name for the court reporter?
Sure. My name is David Phoenix. You spell my last name Phenix. And I was employed with Barrow County Schools for the, specifically Apalachee schools. I just retired, so I was in 2024.
Okay. So did you retire, was your last time at May of 2025? Was that your last school year?
Yes.
Okay. Well, congratulations on retirement.
Thank you.
How long were you a teacher for?
Approximately 25 years.
And how long were you at Apalachee?
2 years.
You, while you were at Apalachee, what subject did you teach?
I was special education, and essentially what that means is that usually I have my caseload of students that are specifically mine, and I follow them from freshman to senior year. But in the normal classroom, I am there to provide support for the general education teacher. Specifically, if we take the situation that, for example, Valerie Lancaster was a general education math teacher, and I was in the same room with Valerie as the support. I have a list of students that, in most cases, when you say special ed, they're not. There's a variety of degrees of special education, and most of the students that I dealt with it could be anything from mild autism to attention deficit type issues, and that was and we would provide accommodations for those students, and 9 times out of 10 it usually meant extra time for a test, or testing a smaller group or whatever, just stuff to address the deficiencies that they may have, so they can be on par with the general education students.
Okay. And so in Miss Lancaster's class, were there kids that were on your caseload, but also kids that were not on the special ed caseload?
I don't think so. I think most of mine that class was a 10th grade class, and I don't think there were any of them that crossed over on that specific class.
Okay. So you were a special ed teacher. Did you do anything else at school?
I was the head golf coach.
Okay. And did Miss Lancaster also coach with you?
She's doing it this year.
She's doing it this year.
She did not do it back then.
Okay. So on September 4th of 2024, what was your second period class?
The second period class was geometry.
Okay. And that was with Miss Lancaster?
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
We're going to pull up State's Exhibit 3.2, and it has your class circled on there. On this particular day, can you before anything happened, can you tell us how that class was going?
It was, I guess, normal pretty much what we've done. I know it was just the beginning of the school year, but for the most part, we'd gotten into a routine. And I think at the time, the class started as normal, and then I think we were handing out worksheets or quizzes or something like that at the time, and just conducting, geometry as usual.
Okay. And are you generally walking around the class trying to help your students?
In most cases, yes.
This particular day, did something grab your attention outside of the classroom?
Sure. Yes, it was. It was probably, I guess, 30 minutes into the class, and we heard something that I guess both Valerie and I were up and around, and we heard something. I thought it was, maybe contractors working on an air conditioning system or something like that. And I didn't. And at the time, what normally most teachers do when you hear something out of the norm, you kind of go out and investigate. A lot of times it might be, a teacher and a student kind of getting into it. It might be, fight. It could be a variety of things. But normally you just kind of support the teachers on your left and your right, and you go out and just kind of make sure everything's okay and see if they need any help.
And so on this particular day, when you heard that, is that what you did?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you left your classroom, do you remember if you went to the left towards J Hall or to the right?
Looking at the diagram, I think we would have gone to the left.
Did anyone else come out of their classroom with you?
Yeah, when I stepped out, pretty much was face to face with Ricky Aspinwall.
Did y'all have time to speak or anything?
We may have exchanged a hey or kind of that what's going on look type thing.
And what happened as y'all both left your classrooms?
We probably walked about in no more than 3 to 5 feet, and then looked up, and I think you can kind of see in the diagram where there's a hallway going that kind of dead ends, that our hallway kind of dead into that back hallway, which is a J hall. And we probably walked about 3 or 4 feet, and then we, at the time we saw a young man with a rifle.
Did you see him before he started shooting?
I did very briefly. I saw him basically in the pose with the rifle, and the minute I saw that, I think both Ricky and I both scattered.
Okay. And were you shot?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see Coach Asimov? Was he shot?
I honestly, at the time it happened, I saw a young man with a rifle, and we kind of dispersed, and I was on Ricky's left, and Ricky was more in the center of the hall, and I was more off to his left. So, and at the time, I picked up the fact that he did have a rifle, and then I kind of dove back in more toward trying to get back into our classroom.
And were you able to get back into your classroom?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you go when you got back inside?
I got there, and we were. That's when something didn't feel right. Obviously, I kind of felt some sort of pain in my hip, and kind of got into the classroom, stumbled in. I think I either hit the floor, hit the wall. When I got to the hospital, I had noticed that my glasses were broken and I had a black eye. So I'm assuming I hit my head somewhere along the way. But yeah, I got back into the classroom, and we were able to get the door shut. And then I kind of hit the floor. I guess I kind of hit a wall, maybe slid down a little bit.
And when you say we were able to, were you the one who shut the door? Or
Yes,
do you not remember?
Yeah, I think I was the one. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember how you were able to do that?
Just getting there. I mean, I guess I kind of crawled over and did it. I mean, I noticed that I'd kind of lost some movement in my hip or my leg really, and I was able to kind of get across the room and get the door shut.
And after you got the door shut, what did you do?
Pretty much kind of fell down flat on my stomach.
And were you in pain at that point?
I'd never been shot before, so it's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, there was some pain there.
Okay. And I know you said you had lost some movement in your hip. Were you having difficulty, were you able to get up, I
No.
guess? Okay. What happened while you were lying there?
Essentially, obviously the alarms have gone off, and I think the kids, from what I could tell, I was kind of facing away from them. I believe they had all congregated in the back of the classroom or somewhere where they're out of my line of sight, and Valerie was able to take some dry erase rags. The rags we don't have, there's no longer chalkboards anymore. It's all dry erase stuff. So they had some dry erase rags, and they stuck it in my hip and tried to suppress the bleeding. And Miss Lancaster was the one that basically did the majority of that. I think 2 students did jump in. We were both Valerie and I did have cell phones, and I think Valerie was trying to call her husband and she was trying to call my wife. So we were kind of in that process of trying to communicate with them as well.
Okay. Was she able to use that to stop the bleeding some?
From what I could tell, yeah.
Okay. And do you remember how long you were there until law enforcement or EMS got there? That's
a good question. I'm thinking 10, 15 minutes maybe. Just a thought. I mean, I think I was kind of hazy and kind of foggy, but I think that's about what time.
And when they arrived, did they take you out of your room into an ambulance?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you go?
Went to Piedmont, Athens.
Okay. And where were you shot?
I was shot in the hip and in the foot, of all things. And I don't know how that really happened. It might have been a ricochet, but it did. Kind of both of them kind of went through the one in my foot kind of went right above my arch and kind of out right below my ankle. So somehow didn't hit the Achilles, didn't hit anything, I guess, really of huge value. And with my hip, it kind of came in through the right here, kind of right below my stomach, and out kind of it pretty much tore up. I guess if you know anything about hips or anything, there's the iliac bone. The way the bone is set up, it's the iliac crest. It's kind of that kind of round bone that's on top of the ball and socket, and it shattered that, and they had to go back the next morning and rebuild my hip, and so those were really the two places that I got hit.
And so you had to have surgery on your hip. Were you able to escape without surgery on your foot?
Yes, yeah, I was in a boot for a few weeks.
How long was the recovery for your hip?
I mean, it could be argued that it's still going on. I mean, it's still. I think we've obviously went through physical therapy and a variety of things, and I think we're kind of at the point now where it kind of is what it is. And if I had to assign a number to it, I'd say I'm probably 85%. But I would think the majority of the healing probably took. Well, I was back at work in a limited capacity in December.
Okay, and so that was your first day back at work was sometime in December?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you able to do your last year of coaching golf?
I was.
Okay. I don't have anything further. Thank you, Coach Phoenix.
All right, any questions? No question, Judge. Thank you. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Pretty good.
Thanks, sir.